is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
It sure is. And talk we will for the next hour or so as welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we are currently at the Andre Markov 79 subscribers, getting so close to hitting that 80 mark. So hit that subscribe button there, as well as you can subscribe to the audio shortly after this podcast is up. And Sean, I have a new greeting for you. Let me just get that for you here. I think as Canuck followers, I propose we greet each other like this.
Oh, Clay.
And the reason we did that is Sean, we're famous. We're famous. Yes, whatever. That news story was about Canuck Clay and Tommy the Tractor Guy. But we got 2 seconds. 2 seconds. We were in a CTV news story. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to run with it. So,
yeah,
as they say.
This point,
yeah.
Any press is good press at this point.
They say you have 15 minutes. There's 15 minutes of fame. We're now down to 14:58. So we still got stuff. What's going on?
It's a nice day, nice week here in Calgary. The snow that we got late last week and on the weekend is almost all gone now, and it's back to some nice spring weather, which is really good for the restaurants and pubs that have patios here, because no indoor dining in Alberta right now. And this will be my last podcast not being at least half vaccinated.
There you go.
I've got my first poke scheduled for tomorrow morning, and it's going to be great. If you are able to get on wait lists, if you are able to go through your provinces or states, what am I trying to say? All the different health issues that could potentially qualify you for where your area is at in terms of vaccination. Go get it. Get as many people. Let's try and get as many people vaccinated as possible going forwards here, because the more people we get vaccinated, the better, and the sooner we can get out of this stupid time in our lives where we can't go see live sports, we can't go see live music, we can't go see live arts, we can't go to a restaurant and eat inside, we can't see our friends if we go to a restaurant. Let's go and find a way to let's do our part and to get our society back to what we love and what we want to see going forwards, because I desperately miss going to live hockey games. I desperately miss going to the pub and watching hockey games. I desperately miss being able to see my friends when I do to do that with. So let's all find our way to do our part and get vaccinated so we can get back to this, because I've seen people that I follow on social media down in Texas and elsewhere where they get to go and watch Dallas Stars games and all that, and I'm just like, I'm so jealous, because I really, really miss that, and I cannot wait till we can do that again.
Well, I mean, even you talk about Texas, in Frisco, Texas, where in Pool B of the U18s there are fans. I mean, it's not a full stadium. You're still pods. You still have to wear masks, but they are on the step already there. So and what is it? I think Biden said tonight 100 million Americans have been vaccinated. I'm still on the wait list here so maybe one day I'll get vaccinated. Who knows? Hopefully soon. But you're right. I mean, it's just hopefully we can get through this sooner rather than later. It's just tough. I mean, the F1 and the Grand Prix in Montreal, we don't talk racing here, but an example of how for the second straight year, the F1 has been canceled. We've seen the effect of the Women's World Hockey Championship that has been canceled. And it is, hopefully they're going to play it at the end of the summer. It's just a lot of this stuff. Like, if we can get out of this as quick as possible and just leave the politics over here as much as we can. I know that it's hard, but just let's get this done. As Lucas Kate said to me, let's go. I'm gonna find that one, actually. Get him that speech. We'll get to the Canucks and the Flames, and we'll get to the U18. It's a busy day. As we speak, the Montreal Canadiens are finding ways to get out of that fourth and final playoff spot in whatever way they can, losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Flames play tomorrow against the Oilers. The Oilers and Jets are in action right now, 2-1. The Oilers are leading as we are starting, and Canada had a battle with Latvia at they outshot them. They were outshooting them by quite a bit, but Latvia kept them in. They had a 2-man disadvantage that they killed off early, but Logan Stankoven, goal and an assist. Canada was leading Latvia last I checked, I believe 2-0, and there was a couple minutes to go in the second. And the Canucks lost to the Ottawa Senators 6-3. And so we'll get into all that, but the big news is the NHL has got their secondary deal done, and it was not Fox Sports, and it was TNT, which nobody had on their bingo card. I did not have on my bingo card, but they have pulled in. They got a 7-year deal. They're taking all the Winter Classics. They're taking 3 Stanley Cup Finals. Quite an interesting. It's an interesting relationship. Shaq was asked if he can name 3 National Hockey League teams on NBA and TNT. He did it. He did it. It worked. But I think overall, I think that this, I think the big thing with the TNT is they have the best live studio presentation in professional sports. And I think that that's going to cause some excitement for the NHL. And they have a personality-driven studio, which I also think is a benefit for the NHL. So I think the transition here from NBC to TNT, I think will be a good transition. I'm looking forward to see what comes out of this, what the NHL turns out of this from TNT.
Oh, I'm excited as well. One thing that I sort of brought to my attention this morning when I was listening to sports radio here in Vancouver on 650 with Halford and Brough was that they said that there was times on the guys on NBC they questions like, do you actually like the sport? Do you like what you're doing? Because you just seem angry. And I think that we're going to see different. We're going to see some more fun on for the panel and intermissions with Turner Sports running things. I just want to clarify that it is Turner Sports, not necessarily TNT.
That is true, and that is actually thanks for correcting, because that is an important distinction, because Wednesday nights is AEW Dynamite on TNT, so that has been what has been a traditional weekday night for NHL. That's an interesting decision of where that goes. And Tuesday, Thursday is typically our NBA on TNT night. So you're right, that is important, but it is Turner Sports. We should specify that. So
yeah, because I think they'll still get. I think the hockey is probably going to be on one of their other channels for Wednesday nights, and we'll at least to start, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's just it should be a nice change for the NHL, because I think the NHL specifically needs a bit of a shakeup, a bit of a change in terms of how they approach the intermissions, the panels, the pregame and the postgame, because it's all very formulaic and very corporate at times. And I think we need to change that. And we're seeing a little bit of little bit of it up here in Canada with Kevin Bieksa on Hockey Night and on Rogers, but we need more of it. And we can't just rely on Kevin Bieksa to do that all the time. We can't rely on just one person. They need to find others. They need to look kind of outside the outside of the box and try and find some people that can bring some fun into this, into it, and make it more entertaining to watch when you're not watching the actual hockey.
Yeah. Now, just a couple quick things here. As far as Wednesday, if it was, Tony Khan said that they are expecting from AEW, did say today he was expecting that they would stay on Wednesday nights. However, there could be an argument that they move to Tuesday and you have another wrestling war with AEW and NXT, which they've already beaten them. So it wouldn't, if they wanted to do it, they could. And it would. The
problem with that is, I believe Tuesdays and Thursdays are reserved for NBA at this point on. So
AEW doesn't do that. That wouldn't benefit AEW. So, but I think you're right. I think that they have. It's certainly an opportunity to add some personalities in there. Already, one name that tweeted that she would like to be involved, and I think would be a great host, is Renee Paquette. For those who don't know, she was Renee Young in WWE. She is a massive hockey fan. She's a Canadian. She is from Toronto. And
used to work for Sportsnet.
And used to work. Yes, she did. She used to work for Sportsnet. She's been on a Hockey Night in Canada a couple of times as well when they were down in Vegas. So she's offered to do that. Would be a great ad if her husband, John Moxley, was also probably could get involved in some way as well. Charles Barkley a few years ago, when it was the Golden State Warriors were sweeping their way through the NBA, he actually said that he was more of a fan of the NHL than the NBA. That was a person that Halford and Bruff brought up, or Jason Bruff brought up today, that he would like to see involved. And I actually think that would be great. I think finding a way to get Charles Barkley involved in some way, shape, or form would be absolutely outstanding. If you could do a Charles Barkley, Kevin Bieksa sort of hockey teaching moment, and that's
oh my God, yeah, make that happen, please. Bieksa and Sir Charles together. Oh, I think that'd be amazing. Like you think Shaq and Charles are great? Get Juice in there. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and because that's the one thing that has to. I think that. Maybe there are some Americans that don't know what hockey is, and there's an opportunity right there to create interest, and a guy that is legitimately interested in hockey. So that would work, I think, really well.
I was just doing a quick research. I don't know why I didn't do this before, but I'm doing it on the show. So you're getting some like raw reaction from me on the channels that Turner Sports has: TBS, TNT, AT&T Sportsnet.
That's the home of the Pittsburgh Penguins, by the way.
Yeah, True TV, and then they also have Bleacher Report. So when we talked a little bit about Apple TV last episode, and how the future is streaming. I think with this being a 7-year deal, I think we will see NHL and Bleacher Report at some point during these upcoming 7 years under this deal. And I think that's fantastic, because streaming is the way of the future. And I am seeing that. I'm really excited for that, because I think it is going to be a big part of the future for all sports. We already have EPL and the Champions League being broadcast on the Zone, which is not a terrestrial, does not have any terrestrial channels, and it's just a streaming service. So going forwards, I think that you look at that and it makes sense more than it really makes sense to have that part of it. And then I think you'll see them swap around on TBS and AT&T Sportsnet depending on what games are on, and I think that'll be great.
And then HBO there is a streaming option with HBO though as well. And I think they'll be I would imagine that they're going to do some documentaries. And they get 3 Stanley Cup finals, so that will be rotated between ESPN and the Turner Network. And I'm just going to call it. I already said this. I really hope that Dave Randorf gets to call the Stanley Cup final. That would be one of my votes. I think that would be a nice thing. A guy was the unfortunate loss because of Chris Cuthbert moving from TSN to Sportsnet, because Cuthbert wanted to call a Stanley Cup final. I think it would be neat for Dave Randorf to get an opportunity. And I think overall, what ESPN and Turner does, I hope that I'm not slating Sportsnet when I say this, or TSN, but I hope that whatever they do raises whatever we do here in Canada. Because I'll be honest, as an example, when the Raptors were on their finals run a few years ago, I watched on ABC. I didn't watch on TSN. I was not a big enjoyer of that coverage, and I think that there's a lot of people that way prefer, if they had the decision, they may go to the American channel, and that is if they raise their coverage, that means that the Canadian ones need to too. And I'm not saying they're bad. We've talked a little bit about that, but it's
stagnant.
It's stagnant. It's very stagnant. Yeah.
But I agree. I think hopefully it does raise the bar for everyone, whether it's ESPN and ABC, whether it's Rogers, whether it's TNT. I hope, because that's the other thing. Don't forget about ABC, ESPN. I think they're going to raise the bar production-wise as well, and it's going to be great because we need I think the sport and the broadcasting side of it needs a shakeup, and we need to find a way to engage more fans, engage more younger fans who want to watch hockey, because we're not staying young, Kevin. We're not being the demographic that these people are chasing, because that's the future. We're not the future anymore. We need to start finding ways.
The future. I don't care. I don't care what you tell me. I'm the demo god. Okay.
Okay, Chris Jericho, who is also someone that the TNT needs to bring in. His dad played with the Rangers back in the day, and he's from Winnipeg and is a hockey fan as well. I honestly think that if they find, because there's actually a lot of crossover between hockey fans, wrestlers, and wrestling fans, and if you find a way to combine them a little bit and bring some of that bravado and that showmanship from wrestling into TNT and into like the broadcasting side, I think it'd be fantastic. It just add a little bit. Like, do you remember when The Rock did the introductions to the 2020 Super Bowl?
Yes, that was fantastic.
I was ready to run through a wall. Like, that's how pumped up I was. And I think if you bring some of those charismatic characters in, don't just to use them to pump things up. It'd be amazing. It'd be great. It'd be different. It'd be a way to help bring more people, get more people interested in at least watching the non-hockey side of things.
Yeah, and there are personalities. Like you got an Alex Ovechkin that is a guy that you can probably use in a very different way. I mean, especially I think he's probably near the end of his career. That's a guy that you can use. I mean, you've got also Henrik Lundqvist would be another guy that I wonder. I mean, I think he'll probably play one more year, but that's a guy I could see that you probably can use. A lot of people find him beautiful. And so there, a former New York Ranger, played in Washington. Zdeno Chara, I can imagine he would be a guy that that people will be interested in. And hopefully the other thing, and I think is it helps promote the junior content, and it helps promote some of the players that are coming up into the NHL as well. The Connor Bedards of the world, the Shane Wrights of the world. Luke Hughes, there's some it helps that as well. We'll get to the U18s in a little bit here.
What I want to see going forward from the NHL and their broadcast partners is to try and figure out how to build the NCAA, the Frozen Four, the CHL Memorial Cup into appointment television. The fact that the Frozen Four is not appointment television for even up here in Canada is a complete swing and a miss, because that's the future. Most Frozen Four teams are going to have one or two players on their roster that are going to be bona fide NHLers, if not stars.
Yeah.
You look back it's just, I think it's time to start selling this. They have people like the NCAA football and basketball are sold down in the States.
Yeah.
It's time to put the time and money in to start selling this, because I think if you do that, it becomes another property that is going to be profitable, and B, you're selling future stars. So when they get drafted, or even they're post draft, because CHL is till 20, you're going to see these stars, these young kids who are going to step into the NHL next season, or in a season or two, and be stars. And the earlier you start to be able to sell them as big names, the better for the NHL, the better for the players, and the better for the sport.
Yeah. And you got someone like Elite Prospects as an example that's helping to get the U18 tournament on the way here. There is organizations that are willing to do that and help develop that. I mean, there's some great people out there that have a great insight, and you can use them. I mean, let me throw another scenario out here, just with my Memorial Cup idea. I suggested a 4-seed tournament. What if we throw college groups in? What if we throw the college teams in?
I would love that, Kev, but you're dealing with potentially almost 10 years of difference in players.
That's true. That's
unfortunately that's the problem. And B, you're dealing with the NCAA at that point.
Yeah,
and
you don't really
we all know how bullshit that is. Because as soon as you go to a camp, a CHL camp, and accept any sort of free gear, or you use gear from them in that camp, you cannot play in NCAA.
Yeah,
and it's stupid. But I still love the idea behind your changing up of the Memorial Cup. I think we discussed it a couple episodes ago, and like I said, I think if you keep the league playoffs, and you still have the league playoffs, because that you go down to NCAA basketball, there's still each region, division, or league, or I can't remember what they're at, conference. There we go. Each conference down in the States has their playoffs.
Yep.
And then you go to the March Madness. So as long as you keep the CHL, the WHL, OHL, QMJHL playoffs intact, then you can then I think an expanded Memorial Cup makes so much sense, and you sell the shit out of it in terms of being able to make it a appointment viewing must watch time of year, because because that would be probably April, May, because usually, if I remember correctly, the Memorial Cup is usually May long weekend, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
it starts
right around there.
Yeah.
So you find a way to have the season end a little bit earlier, or start earlier, and so that they can end earlier, and then you have it leading up, and then you have the final. We're talking CHL, so you have the final on May long Monday, on Victoria Day.
Yeah, that can work. Yeah. I mean, you have and you with expanded, you already have your lottery is already done. So where everybody's pretty much picking, and you're in the NHL, you're in the conference finals at that particular point. So you've got already, you can have a debate about who should go one or who teams should be taken. And that is just the other part of that engagement that I think is so important to me. I think the NHL has misstepped that a lot of the times over the years, that you get a Connor McDavid, and that's obvious. You're going to pick him number one, and then an Alexis Lafreniere. There's sometimes a pretty obvious number one, but in a year like this, where there's a legitimate argument for about 5 or 6 players to go number one, this is why. And then even some of these later players. And also, to add on to this, as the NFL draft is tomorrow, I think that this kind of conversation, I wonder, would lead to opportunities for teams to be a little bit more creative in terms of trades at the draft. Because I would love to start seeing some more trades in the first round. Like, I'd love to see some teams move down and get an extra pick. I know that isn't common NHL thinking, but like, I wish there were more stories like when Brian Burke got the Sedins. I really here's one as an example. If some GM can find a way to get Shane Wright and Brendan Othman on the same team next year in 2022, woo!
I think
it's hard to say. It's hard to do.
It's
right?
so tough. It's so tough in hockey to be able to do that, though. I think the Sedins that's how special the Sedins were. They probably would have been stars on their own, but you need someone to have the guts to go off and make all these trades. And in hockey, where one player doesn't always make the biggest difference, even if you are the best player in the world. Let's look at Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, for example. They're having a great season now, but it's taken them a long time, and they've made the playoffs once since they drafted Connor McDavid. It doesn't turn your franchise around immediately like in the NBA, and the difference is hockey's so much more of a intertwined team game than football, where football you can have everything, but one linchpin can be a bit of an issue where you go positionally. It's harder to go to draft positionally in hockey than it is in football.
Yeah, no, I get that. It would just add some intrigue and excitement to draft night that I don't think the NHL always.
No, I agree. I would like to see a little bit more. With the way the NHL does it, it's like, oh, they've moved up 3 spots for a first and a third, a first, a second, and a third type deal. But I don't necessarily see that changing too much if they ended up having an expanded Memorial Cup. But if you have more eyes on these younger players, you're going to have more intrigue on the draft.
Yeah. And even after the first round, which is another which is
Mhm.
another thing that I do think is important, because there are some fines, like there's an Andrew Mangiapane. He was a fine. Other players as well that you find that you can get late, and sometimes you
One
forget.
one of the players we'll talk about later with the Vancouver Canucks, Jack Rathbone.
Yeah, I was just
He
gonna
was a
say.
he's a mid to late round pick, and you've got the draft nerds and the hockey nerds that are fully invested in that, but it's not as big a deal because no one sees them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a global draft now with you're drafting, like, Canucks drafted Elias Pettersson out of Sweden, Vasily Podkolzin out of Russia, and there's some people doing great work to get those scoutings afterwards. But if you're able to start making a big deal out of the Memorial Cup and the Frozen Four, that goes a long way to helping the brand of hockey, helping the brand of both those leagues, subsequently the players who go into the NHL, and helping the brand of the NHL. So I just, to me, it's no brainer. And I think all three of the major broadcast partners for the NHL, Rogers, ABC, ESPN, and now Turner Sports, need to start working on figuring out how they can start growing the game by trying to make the Frozen Four and the Memorial Cup more appointment viewing, to just like bowl games with college football and March Madness is for college basketball. It is currently.
One more thing on this, and then we'll move on back to this whole TV thing. I think one thing I wonder is, if I'm Turner Sports, do I consider, let me just throw in a scenario, because Saturday night is hockey night in Canada. Could we see Turner Sports get involved on Saturdays? And you just make it this is North American hockey night in Canada is Saturday night.
NHL hockey night.
Yeah.
Hockey night. Saturday night hockey. Like, make Saturday night hockey a thing. I don't think so, unfortunately, because for the most part you've got through the fall you've got football, and NCAA is Saturdays. That's gonna hold them back until late January.
No, it would only hold them out. It would only hold it until.
You're right. So until December.
December. I mean, the NFL has games Saturday night before, but I don't see how maybe that, like, depending on the net, like, it's not, if it's ESPN would usually carry us a college game, but I don't know if Turner would. So that could be an opportunity there for them to get involved in that. Because can I just be honest? Like, sometimes just because it is a Canadian team, I don't necessarily want to feel like we should be obligated to watch it. If there's a better matchup, I think we should be allowed to watch the better matchup. Like, if a Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche are playing on Saturday night, that should be an option. There Canadians on those teams.
I mean, like, this is where you do have the option. There are options out there to watch it. It's just, would they? Rogers would I don't think Rogers would. I think that'd be an interesting discussion with Rogers in terms of that, unless they're willing to throw it on 360 or Sportsnet 1, put it on their channel still, because Saturday night is for hockey on whoever's hosting it, whether it was, but for the longest time CBC, and now you got CBC and Sportsnet and the Rogers stuff. So I think that'd be a very tough conversation to have with the Canadian broadcasters. But I think it's an interesting thought, because when when Rogers first started out, they tried that.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, and then you can just do updates. So much stuff that you can do with that. Anyway, I think that there's potential there if everybody gets involved and and can do it, I think that this is going to be a fantastic deal. And it is double the amount that they got last time. So I think this is good news for the NHL, and hopefully going forward.
Well, yeah, you compare what they got from NBC for the past one, and then compare it to what they got from ESPN, ABC, and Turner Sports. It's a huge win for the NHL.
Yeah.
But again, you got to find partners who are willing to help grow the game and help. So, excuse me, and help grow other parts other than just NHL. Because, as I said, if you grow grassroots and you grow the personalities of the game, it's going to help you.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of the younger audiences are gravitating more towards players as opposed to teams.
Yeah.
So you need to sell the players.
Yeah. That's true. I agree.
And me being an old school curmudgeon, I don't understand it, because you play for the crest on the front, not the name on the back. You cheer for the crest on the front, not the name on the back. It's how I grew up, but they're different. So you got to start figuring out how to sell the players so that you can sell the game to the younger audience.
Yeah. No, I hear both sides of that. It's a fascinating thing, but other leagues have done it better.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA and NFL and soccer has done that a lot better than the NHL for sure. Speaking of kids, the Vancouver Canucks lost 6-3 to the Ottawa Senators. I'm just, before we get into the actual conversation around this, I'm just going to rant on this. There was no excuse for this performance for the Canucks this afternoon, earlier this evening. Look, the Ottawa Senators were mathematically eliminated on opening night, and they are still playing with fight, heart, and passion. Like, I get the schedule issues with the Canucks. I get all of that. But maybe the wrong word, not no excuse, but it's just, I think it's expected more from the Canucks. And I know that there's a lot of things going against them. But the Ottawa Senators season, I look at how the Ottawa Senators are just still fighting, even though they have nothing to play for. Just maybe expected a little bit more from the Canucks today.
Yeah, I think we're in this like weird area where the adrenaline's worn off, but they haven't quite got their legs back yet. So, as good as the efforts were against Toronto, and they got a split at home versus Ottawa, I can just see it. They're winded. They're a step behind. These teams have played they didn't have to take basically a month break. So I see I understand what you're trying to say, but I don't agree with it. I think they put their efforts there. Their effort is there, but they're trying too hard to make up for the fact that they don't have their legs. And they're making mistakes because of that. So they had to they lost 6-3 today. One was an empty net goal, and they allowed 2 goals in 30 seconds to start the second. Now they came back and made a bit of a game of it later on in that period. But if you take away that minute to 2 minute stretch in the beginning of the second period, it's a different game. And as much as I give them full marks for showing up and trying their best, Demko played great. He made some big saves to keep it from going crazy. But it's just, I think they're running on fumes at this point, and not all the gears are working together. And it's frustrating to watch, because you know some of these players are better. You know that Brock Besser's better. You know that Bo Horvat's better. You know that Tanner Pearson's better. You know that JT Miller's better. You know that Quinn Hughes is better. But they're struggling to keep up because they've been off the ice. They were off the ice for so long while these players Ottawa was gaining steam. Ottawa's playing with confidence right now. They're playing with for a team in last place. They're playing with swagger.
Yeah, they're a fun watch.
And they've got some young players coming in. Shane Pinto was playing tonight. Today. I don't think Jacob Bernard Docker played tonight in the game, but they're starting to infuse some players, and they're a fun pesky team to play again. They're a pesky team to play as. They're a fun team to watch. And they're a young team too. Like, you look at the Canucks and they're missing Pettersson. Miller, Horvat, both in their mid-20s. They're not young, but they're not old. You got Quinn Hughes, who, from all reports, got hit hard, and you can tell he's still not there. His legs are still not there yet. Hoglander's playing really well, but you need more. And this is where the play of the kids' cries are coming in. Play Cole Lind. Like, Cole Lind is the one that I am adamant, like, you need to play going forwards. I understood not playing him up until maybe even up into including tonight. I understand it. But now I think you have to. Ole Ulevi's played well. He's getting minutes. He's been playing between like 11 and 15 minutes a game since he got back. I think he didn't play the first game, but he's played every game since, and he's been playing 11 to 15 minutes a night. And as someone that's what I would want for him to play. So he's been playing. Hoglander's been playing. And so what's left is Cole Lind and Jack Rathbone. And I have a hard time seeing, as much as I want to see Jack Rathbone, I have a hard time seeing where he fits in this lineup until back-to-back games, they're officially eliminated, or it's 0.01% type deal. And you need to give a rest to Alex Edler or even Ole Ulevi, because Jack Rathbone is a left shot defenseman that plays the left side. He's not a left shot defenseman who likes playing the right side. He's a left side guy. So who are you taking out? Are you really willing to go when you still have if you're Travis Green, let's look at this. If you're Travis Green and you still have a chance and you're still coaching for your job, I don't know why he's still coaching for his job. He should have a contract.
Coaching for a job.
Yeah. He's still coaching for it. He's still coaching for a job. Is he really willing to go with Hughes, Ulevi, Rathbone on the left side? What coach would do that?
Yeah, I'm not saying that they should play the kids. I'm not on that camp. Like, they still have the Montreal Canadiens are finding ways to allow other people to get an opportunity to get into this playoff spot. Kudos to them. You know, they're finding, and some of it is very unfortunate bad luck, but some of it is also play as well. So I can see, you know, I can see from the Canucks perspective that they're not necessarily you know, the Canucks have to play as if they're trying to get into the playoffs. It's a tough schedule. And there isn't, and Travis Green said today, they know what they have. I don't know if you have the tweet that Brendan Batchelor tweeted out today. Some looked at that as a little shot to our friend Jim. But, you know, I mean, Travis Green knows what he has, and I think that Travis Green is going to play this down the stretch. There's no other real option, right? See what happens, and you never know. Like, even tomorrow, the Toronto Maple Leafs have clinched a playoff spot tonight. Are they going to be? I'm not saying that they're not motivated, but the Toronto Maple Leafs are basically, as you see, are they going to be super motivated tomorrow? That could be an opportunity for a point or two there. So, and then you still got those final four games against Calgary that, I mean, may or may not happen depending on things. There we go. Travis Green and rotating his lineup. We all know the players that are here. The players we have are the options that we have.
Now, I know everyone's going to say that's a shot at Jim Benning, and I would say about half of it is. But the other half is the players that he has, other than Matthew Highmore and Madison Bowie, are players who haven't been playing, and even Matthew Highmore and Madison Bowie weren't regular players, so they weren't playing games. So basically, his whole lineup hadn't been playing a regular schedule for a month or longer. So, like I said, I definitely think part of that is a shot at Jim and the roster construction, but part of it is just to say, look, these guys are gassed. They're coming off of one of the worst diseases that you can possibly get and recover from this in as quick a manner as they possibly can, without putting themselves into a Marco Rossi situation, which was more stories coming out about how close he was to ending his career. We don't even know if his career is if at this point, but I think half of it is that too, is these guys are what they are at this point, and until they're behind the eight ball on playing hockey, as opposed to these teams that have been continuing to play for the month that they were off.
I'm okay. Thinking about this a little bit. I initially still think there is a bit of a shot there at Benny, but the other side of this too, it just goes back, and I'll use a football analogy here for a second, is when Kyle Shanahan was asked about what quarterback he was going to pick in the third in the draft, or what's going to happen with Jeremy Garoppolo. His response is, "We don't know if we're going to be alive on Sunday," and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And it's just like he just said it. He just answered a question, and there's nothing like we sit here and overanalyze every single bit of what somebody says. And maybe Travis Green meant nothing by it. We know what we have. I'm not taking a shot at anybody. This isn't, but we in the media need to create content out of comments from Travis Green, and Travis Green means nothing by it. So I do want to be cautious there, but I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of, these are the players we have, and this is the situation we're in. But I also think it is a shot at Jim Benning, because the bottom six has been an issue for this team for years. Like, we're in year 7 of Jim Benning, and has he really put it together a bottom six that you'd be excited for? No. So I think it is. I think it's a bit of both. Okay, but let me counter something here. When Daryl Sutter said that the Flames did not have a game breaker, was that a shot at Brad? Did people look at that as a shot at Brad Treliving? Other than I did, but that was not something that a lot of people were talking about.
Well, that's a different market where I think that people took that as shots at Gaudreau, Monahan, and Tkachuk, as opposed to the guy who brought all those players in, as well as did other moves. Traded away 2 game breakers, one guy who's a lot of people are trying to get as the Norris winner for this year, and Adam Fox, as well as Dougie Hamilton, who's been playing just as good. And I would say those 2 are game breakers.
And I guess, and you have Sam Bennett, who has 10 points in 7 games, that people are all of a sudden, but let's just say Sam Bennett can get 10 points in 7 games, but Sam Bennett can take 10 bad penalties in 7 games as well. We've seen both from him. Congratulations to Sam. I think he needed to get out, but I'm still on the wait and see train with Sam Bennett a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's still early, but he's making the best of his opportunity right now, and you give him all full credit for what he's done so far.
Yeah, but he's also he is playing with the best left winger in the National Hockey League right now. His name is Jonathan Huberdeau. People may not know who that man is, but he will be playing if they're playing in Beijing, he will be on the number 1 line.
No, I agree. Like, he's having a great time, and we'll use this as a transition to get into the Flames and the big question that you posted.
Yes,
whether the Flames should have kept Cam Talbot and signed Tyler Toffoli as opposed to going heavy into the goaltending and getting a Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah, so this came from Will Nault. He brought this up yesterday on 960, and he suggested, because Tyler Toffoli has 25 goals. He's 5th in the league in goal scoring in Montreal. He burnt the Vancouver Canucks early in the year. And he's not continued at that pace, but he's played very well in Montreal. He scored the winning goal on Monday to avoid a sweep against the Calgary Flames. His argument was you didn't need a goaltender. You sign Cam Talbot, you bring in Tyler Toffoli, and you do not sign Jacob Markstrom. And you go with the Talbot-Riddick combination, and you fill Tyler Toffoli to fill a need that still is a need, top 6. Now, Brad Treliving decided, let's sign Jacob Markstrom. We'll bring in a Josh Levo, a Dominic Simone, and some guys, and we'll look at that option, and maybe we can get that on the cheap. And it's just flat out, plain and simple, it didn't work out. It did not.
That part did not.
And I'm not going to criticize Brad Treliving for 2 guys that did not work out, because that's partially on the player as well. Maybe with Levo, I don't know the situation that well, but I wonder if maybe his knee wasn't as close to 100% as we thought.
Well, these are a tough injury to come back from. Anytime you have a major surgery on a knee or a shoulder, you're going to have major issues coming back that first year. I really liked the signing of Josh Levo for the Flames as a potential steal, but I was hesitant based off of I don't know where his knee is at, because that was a brutal injury to come back from, and I think he was your best bet to figure that out. Dominic Simone, Nordstrom, both good depth players, but I didn't feel like they were players who could fill that role long term. Josh Levo, from what I saw in Vancouver when he was healthy, had the ability to do that when healthy, and I don't think he was 100% medically, but I don't think it takes time to get back to 100% mentally, physically, medically, and all that combined, and it sometimes can take a season.
Yeah.
So that was where I was concerned. All that being said, long term, Brad Treliving made the right decision going after Jacob Markstrom. He filled a need in net where that's a harder position to fill than it is to fill a top 6 winger, in my opinion.
Well, here's the other thing that I think from the Flames perspective that I think played into this. I think that they were expecting someone like Dylan Dubé to make more of a jump than he did, and that didn't happen. You can blame Daryl Sutter or whatever. I'm not blaming Daryl Sutter for that, but Dylan Dubé did not make the jump that was expected overall this year. And that
part of that is, and Devin's going to hate me for saying it, is the unbalanced setup on this on this forward group, and putting Dylan Dubé on the right side when he's better on the left side, putting Mangiapane on the right side when he's better on the left side. Mangiapane's made that step.
He's made a huge step.
He's made a huge step.
Yeah.
But I think I do think that Dubé is someone who needs to figure out how to be competitive and have that raise his level every game, night in, night out, and he hasn't. But he's still young. He's still 22. He's got 1 or 2 more years before you start to really question whether or not he's just a third liner, because he's a good third liner. He still needs to find a way to produce a little bit more to be a really good third liner. And again, but he's still got 1 or 2 more years before you're gonna really question where he's at. But I still think that you look at Markstrom's had a bad year. You look at his stats, you look at his save percentage. 2015-16, it was a .915. And then going from there till now, .910, .912, .912, .918, .903. So he's had a bit of a step back, but I think part of that is new team, 2 new coaches,
and an injury.
So I think there's part of that. While you look at Tyler Toffoli, who is shooting at an 18% this year. He is on his career a 10.2% shooter. He is having one hell of a career year, and all the props to him for that. He's having one hell of a career. He shot 15.8 with the Canucks in 10 games. And with the Kings for the rest of the last season was 10.9. His previous career high in shooting percentage was 14.6, and that was in 15-16. So right now he looks like an absolute steal and an absolute bargain and a first line like elite sniper. But when you look at the history,
that's an overpay.
There's a question on whether or not he can keep that up for the rest of that contract, which I've forgotten how many years that is. I think it's 4, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe, yes, it was 4 years. Yeah.
So as much as you want to, as much as the praise Toffoli deserves for the season he's had, as much as he's played amazing this year and has feasted on the Canucks, the Flames, and basically everyone except the Oilers, I believe. Because I think I looked at his splits, and it was basically that. There was one team that he wasn't having a good season with. But long term, I think the Flames are going to be able to find someone who can provide similar production to Tyler Toffoli at a less of a commitment long term than he currently has.
Here's the other side of that conversation, though, too, is yes, Tyler Toffoli is having an outstanding season. Again, give him credit. But the Montreal Canadiens have to do cap gymnastics, and not like a somersault on the mat. Like they had to do some on the balancing board with the tippy toe. They had to do some acrobatic cap gymnastics to get Cole Caulfield into the lineup. And I would imagine that there are a lot of people in Montreal that would wish that didn't happen, because they're really excited about getting Cole Caulfield into the lineup. And I'm not saying, you shouldn't have signed Toffoli, but you're paying him and you're paying a Josh Anderson. When you look at that, and you could argue that Toffoli was an overpayment, a little bit of an overpayment. And if I'm the Flames, do I make that contract offer for Toffoli? I don't know if I do it. I'm with you, and I mean, and the vote on our Twitter poll disagrees, but I think the Flames made the right decision here in taking Markstrom. Now, should the Flames have found a different way to get another top 6 forward? yes, for sure. I would be open to having that argument and that debate, but the Toffoli Markstrom part, they made the right decision in getting Markstrom.
Yeah, and I just think that there's other players out there that they're able to. They should be able to find. You look at how going forward. You look at how can they fix this and fix the imbalance that is in this lineup. Right now, I think they've got 3 top 6 left wingers.
Kachuk, Gaudreau, and Mangiapane.
Yeah. You move you move Gaudreau. You move. I know there's people out there who are saying let's sell on Kachuk. I'm like, no, you're selling. No. Unfortunately for the Flames, all their options to sell is they're selling low. They're selling low on Monahan. They're selling low on Gaudreau. They would sell low on Kachuk. But out of the 3, I think the biggest the player who's going to have a bigger bounce back is going to be Kachuk. And I think you have to look at that and go, all right, let's figure this out and find a way to move on from. You're not moving on from Mangiapane. He's still growing. Like I still think he's got one more. I still think he's got some more offensive, a better offensive side to bring out. So at least one option. And
I haven't hated Johnny the last little bit though, to be honest.
I haven't either. But at what point do you have to look at and say you need to find a way to move something and find a way to shake things up? No one's taking Backlund with that contract. As good as Backlund is, but that contract, you never know when the wheels are falling off of Backlund, right? Because he's over 30.
34.
He's in his mid 30s. Like that, the wheels could fall off of him in next year. No one's going to take that. You're selling way too low on Kachuk. You're not going to sell Mangiapane. Like, why would you sell Lindholm when he's your guy that you can? He's the future, at the present and the future. He's still young. Like, to me, the only option right now, and you could move Monahan, but again, are you okay with moving Backlund back up into a top 6 role?
No, to me. The Flames, if I'm the Flames, the guys I'm building around are Lindholm, Kachuk, Mangiapane, Tanev, Hanifin. I'm putting a question mark right now on Valimaki. I'm not saying he's not there. I'm not saying he's not a good defenseman, Devin, if you're watching. But if there was an offer, a really good offer for a really high-end top 6 forward, right-hand shot, I think the Flames have to listen. Just listen. Maybe Connor. I don't know. Connor Mackey. We'll have to see about him. Maybe
talking about playing kids. You got to see what you have in Connor Mackey.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, if you're gonna, you have to see that. I would like to see the Flames bring back Derek Ryan. I think that he's a guy, I think that that's going to be a regret for some teams that they didn't bring him in on the trade deadline.
I'll be honest. I want Derek Ryan next year on a 1-year deal in Vancouver.
Yeah,
Derek Ryan as their 3rd-line center, so you don't have to put JT Miller on, split up the lotto line. You play Mott, Derek Ryan, and Vasily Podkolzin as a 3rd line in Vancouver. I think it's going to be tough for them to keep Derek Ryan.
Well, I would like to see the Flames do it. I think if the Flames, the Derek Ryan is going to be, he's not going to get it's not going to be like a LeBron James special, but a lot of teams are going to inquire about Derek Ryan. There's no question about that.
He's a good depth player.
Yeah, the Oilers.
He's a good depth player.
The Oilers would need to do that. I think the Canadians will do it. I think the Jets would have to consider it. A lot of teams will consider it.
I don't think the Canadians would, because I think they're going to continue to try and grow their centers. I think Nick Suzuki is going to take a big step next year, but Oilers for sure. Like Kyle Turris did not work out.
No.
So they desperately need a third line center to go forwards with, and they're going to start to have a little bit more cap room to work with, and yeah, I think. But in terms of going forwards for the Flames for this season, you need to see what you have with Connor Mackey. I'm trying to see who else.
Glenn Gaudin, I think, needs to get another look. Maybe you give a look to Matthew Phillips. Maybe
I think you need to find a way to give that with Hanifin out. I think it's time for put up or shut up with Valimaki. It's time for him
I wouldn't
to get
say put up or shut up. I would say let's see. I think the expectations were a little too high on him this year, considering what he came off of. And I'm not willing to say he's done if he doesn't play well. I think he needs a full off-season program under what Daryl Sutter wants, and comes back in training camp and a full season. I think he's one of those guys that deserves a second chance.
I'm not saying he's done, but I think it's time for him to show what he can be. If you give him the ice time and he's not showing what he can be, that's when you start to see who's willing to. That's when you start shopping him for that right wing that you were talking about.
I mean, and then that's the other thing with Valimaki too, is you need to, what are you going to do with Mark Giordano? Because if you leave him unprotected, I don't know if the Kraken take him or not.
I don't think they do.
I wouldn't think so.
37 years old, making $6 something. Let's make
the other side of that for the Flames too is maybe, I don't know if you would get a lot for him, but maybe he's a trade option, maybe in the offseason. I don't know.
The only way you're getting a significant amount for him is if you're retaining salary.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the flat cap and everything, I have a hard time seeing teams willing to bring in an aging 37-year-old on a $6.75 million cap hit, even if it is for one season.
And here's the other side of that. I think Daryl Sutter may want him stick around if he can. I'm not saying that he's there will be some Flame fans that will be absolutely irate with that decision, but I think Daryl Sutter sees a value. We may not be the future for that demographic for the NHL and Turner, Sean, but in Daryl Sutter's world, elderly isn't a bad thing.
No, I agree. I just look at it. I look at they have to look at the expansion draft at this point, and if you protect Giordano, who are you exposing?
And if Tanev is gone, if I am the Kraken and Chris Tanev is exposed, I am running. That is absolutely 100% taking that guy and grabbing him, 100%.
Yeah, and you look at I mean, it would save you Backlund, but because I look at that and maybe Seattle looks at Backlund. But again, I don't necessarily see them wanting the term on that contract. The only reason why I think Seattle could take Giordano is there's only 1 year left. But at 6.75, are they really willing to pay a guy that much for 1 year, and he's probably retiring after?
No, I don't know. I don't see it, but it maybe he retires. I mean, the only other thing is if he was higher up in the Olympic consideration, does he try it? That's the other question, but I don't see it. He's not a must. It's not even
He's
close.
not even close anymore. If they had gone in 2018, he would have been on that team, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Not when you've got. Not yeah. He's a lefty too. So I'm trying to think. Morgan Riley's ahead of him.
Darnell Nurse is ahead of him.
Darnell Nurse is ahead of him.
Thomas Chabot.
Thomas Chabot's ahead of him. Like, there's too many too many defensemen that are younger, better than him at this point. So, it just like. But the other thing with that is he willing to walk away from that money? Because he's owed. Let's see here. Yeah, he's still owed $6.75 million next year. Why would he walk away from that?
Maybe he's decided that there's enough. I don't know what's going through his head. So,
like, Canucks fans are like racking their brains trying to figure out whether or not Louis Eriksson will walk away from the salary he's owed for next season, which is where is it? Where is he? He's on the taxi squad. So see here, he's owed $4 million next year. So he gets a signing bonus of $1 million and still has a base salary of $3 million. I mean that changes based off of escrow, but it's nothing compared to 6.75 for Gio.
No, yeah.
Like, there's no signing bonus at all. It's a full on. He's, to be honest, if I'm him, yeah, he's made a decent amount of money, but I would still play it out. I would still want that money. With Louis, I think it's a little more different because of everything. But when you're talking about over $6 million,
the only thing I would say though with Gio, the one thing I would imagine would be a question is, okay, if you're not going to protect me, and I end up in Seattle, when Seattle, expansion team, depending on how things go, we saw the Vegas Golden Knights get to the Stanley Cup final. Depends on how that goes. But I would think that Gio wants to play with the Stanley Cup contender. I would think, like, for me as a fan of Gio, I want to see him get a crack at the Cup.
Yeah, and I get that. I think it's similar to Alex Edler in Vancouver. Devin will re-listen to this and go nuts because I keep referring to Canucks stuff, but they're older guys who have basically spent their whole careers in one city. Gio's been a little bit around. He went to Russia for a couple of years, but he's basically been a Flame for his whole career.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that he's one of those guys who just likes where he's at, and if he goes to Seattle, he goes to Seattle, but I think his preference would be to retire a Flame.
Yeah. Just to interrupt here, can we just give Latvia a round of applause? They were outshot 51-26, and Canada beat them 4-2.
Did Canada dry up all their goal scoring after?
Apparently.
After beating Sweden, what was it?
Yeah.
What did they beat Sweden by? Like 12-1?
Yeah. Yeah. So kudos to Latvia, but
they didn't have Shane Wright, but
yeah, but still, kudos to Latvia. For that anyway. But so Canada 2-0 in that, and they play next on Thursday against Switzerland, or sorry, Friday against Switzerland.
Today's Wednesday.
Tomorrow's a day off. Friday, Saturday are the final two games. Yeah.
No, that's when Latvia always seems to get goaltending against Canada.
They do.
Was it Guzlevskis or in was it 2014? Was it?
Yeah.
That was crazy. But congrats to them. That's another tournament I think deserves a bigger stage, especially in lead up to the World Championship, like to the draft. This is the draft class for the most part. Yeah, you've got the Shane Wrights and the Connor Bedards, but for the most part, this is under 18s. So this is the draft class coming up. Why TSN isn't making a big deal out of this, and the NHL isn't making a big deal out of this to try and sell the future, is beyond me.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Derek Neumeyer about this because I'm covering this for the Dub Network, and I had a chance to talk to Peter Labardius, and like Peter absolutely swears by these tournaments. It's so. Labardius told me that if he could go to any tournament any year, like if he had the money to do the three, he would do the Gretzky, Holinka, and the World Juniors. That's the
Gretzky Holinka is the one that has more of the next draft class, because normally you've got the CHL playoffs going. So, but I think there just needs to be a relook at how when these tournaments are, how they're promoted and everything, because like as I said earlier, people are starting to follow players more than teams.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll transition here. I mean, you look at a guy like a team like Belarus. I don't know if you can find the lacrosse goal, but that, we've seen forwards do it. This was a defenseman that did it from the blue line. He jumped in. Like they were a fun team to watch. Delina Kalinovic, remember that name. He's got 4 goals in this tournament. Not even strength, but this guy is. He went in on a breakaway and tried to do a little between the leg move. They're playing in the pool. So Pool B is where the crowd is. Pool A is where the scouts are. That's where Pool B is Canada's pool, and that's where the scouts are. And Belarus is in that pool. So they're seeing the scouts and they're like, Hi, I'm from Belarus. Can you draft me? Oh, we do things like this, So they've been a lot of fun. And then you got like from Canada's perspective, Shane Wright didn't play today, but outstanding. You got a very interesting goaltending situation where you had Benjamin Gaudreau, who played his first full game today all year. You had Thomas Milic, who played yesterday. Probably Tyler Brynan will play, I would imagine, one of the next 2 games, because Dave Barr said that they're going to use all 3. You got another Brooks Bandit in the lineup in Corson Kuhlmans. If you remember, that's where Cale Makar played his AJHL, for those who are not in Alberta. It's just the tournament's a lot of fun. Pool B has been the pool of chaos. You had the U.S. up 5-1 on Russia and lost 7-6. You had Russia up 5-3 on Finland and lost to Finland. The Czechs were up on Finland last I checked. I'll just quickly look at that. Well, we're both pulling a Ron McLean here as we're trying to find stuff, but it is a tournament I would encourage you to make sure that you at least catch some of. It is a really good tournament, especially this year. Number of players considered for number 1, including Canada's Brant Clark, including Sweden's Simon Envold. So, a tournament I would encourage you to check out for sure. The Finns beat the Czechs 6-5, by the way. This is the lacrosse goal.
It's so smooth.
Yeah.
So smooth.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even like he went deep down to get it up on his stick. It was like he just flipped it and it was like, oh, look, it's in the net. That was so smooth. So smooth.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's all I have to. I'll check out my articles I interviewed on dubnetwork.ca. I interviewed Derek and Peter, and I'll interview them later on, and got some other things on there. Keegan, hello, Keegan. Another 3-point night for Connor McDavid. I'm just going to say it. If he is not the unanimous vote for the Hart Trophy, there needs to be an investigation.
You know he won't be, right?
I know. but he should be.
Some Toronto writers are going to vote for Matthews.
Yeah, probably. Or someone might vote for Nathan McKinnon too. But that's just
But Matthews is having one hell of a season as well. Like it's the rate of scoring he's at is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Anything else we need to get into here?
No, I just think it's going to be. I'm really hoping that Colin gets in for the Canucks tomorrow. Ulevy got another assist today, but I really think that they need to insert some youth into this lineup, especially up front. It's time. It's time to give Colin a shot at this point. When Craig Button went off on Donnie and Dolly about play the kids, I was like, I understand why Green isn't, but at this point, it's time. It's time. Give some youthful enthusiasm, some legs. Yeah, he hasn't played, but he's young. Give him a shot. Let him play. And then I hope Rathbone gets in. Those are the two you kind of want to see what you have going forwards. Especially with Edler needing a new contract next year, and the Canucks needing to revamp their bottom six. It's time. It's time to see what you have there. And I know it won't happen because it's gonna take a week, and you're gonna detriment the Utica Comets. I would love to see Jonah Gadjevich get a shot. He's had one hell of a year down in Utica in trying circumstances. Scored, I think, 2 goals today.
Yeah, the overtime winner.
So I would love to see what he has, because I think, again, youthful enthusiasm. I know his skating isn't the best, but he knows where to be. Play him protected fourth line minutes and put him on the second unit power play in front of the net. Let's see what this kid has. I'd love to see that. I don't see Gadjevich getting that this year. I think realistically it's not going to happen, but it's something that it's a bit of a pipe dream that I would love to see happen this year. But I want to see Colin in one of the next 2 games.
As far as things coming up, we've got a few projects that we're going to be looking at. We'll be doing something on the expansion draft where we're going to have pick our own Krakens. We're going to pick our Krakens.
I think what my idea was of this, as I'm spearheading this, is like we'll do a few different. We'll do like 4 or 5 episodes where we go through them. We'll go through each division, not north, east, west, and south, is it? I don't know. I can't remember what they. No, it's
that makes sense.
North Central,
Northeast, west. Yeah, is it north, south? Yeah.
No, it's
Never
North
east
Central, North Central, West, and East. But I'm setting things up, and I've got it based off of the standard divisions. So we'll have Pacific, Metropolitan, East, and
the normal
Central.
Divisions. Yeah,
the normal divisions.
The normal division.
And then we'll do an episode for each division, and then we're going to do an episode where we pick the Kraken. I'm doing some work, some behind the scenes work to try and set things up so it's a little easier for us to do that and order players so that we can find a way to make sure we don't miss anyone. But I think that'll be fun. And then we're gonna try and bring some more content, a little more than normal, going forwards, I hope.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing a mock draft. I'll spearhead that, but the idea will be, I think we'll do it. We won't do everyone picks the top 32. I think what we'll do is we'll draw numbers, and then we'll do an episode where each 4 of us be a general manager of 7 different teams.
4. There's 5 of us, Kevin.
4 or 5. 5 of us. Okay, 5. Yeah. But
unless you're gonna be Gary Bettman and just moderate it all.
I could do that too, but but you will do that. And then we've got some other things we kind of want to. We're going to increase the content of what we do here a little bit, not just from like our regular podcast, but some other stuff as well that we want to start digging into some of the issues as well. So, how do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyCanuck03 on Twitter.
Devin is Gordhouse09, Schneid's SCHNEIDZ, Tyler is TNOBLE. We'll get his thoughts Saturday for sure on the new deal as well. We will be talking about that with Tyler. And I am KVOLE podcast _hockey, youtube.com, the hockey podcast, facebook.com, the hockey podcast. And thanks everyone. And we will talk to you all very soon.
Well, before we completely sign off, I figured I'd bring in an update for everyone who because the last few times I was making comments about making it to the final of the hockey pool and facing Devin.
Oh, how did that go?
He did not hold up his agreement. He did not win his semifinal. I did, and unfortunately, we did not get the brother battle in the final.
Yeah, I didn't win my pool either, so oh well, that's okay. But but we will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye for now. Where is it? Hey, where's the? Follow Clay on Twitter. Yeah, I gotta. Why my internet? Ron
McLean it.
Ron McLean. Here, there it is. Wait, there it is. Wait, here it is. There it is. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.